I was born at the intersection of business, art, and psychology. 1 million people died in that, what they called the Spanish flu, which wasn't actually from Spain. 25% of Americans were unemployed. Pandemic of 1918. 75 to 100 million people died. Our minds are certainly messed up at various times, sometimes a lot. If you understand everything that you need does not have to be in your building. It does not have to be a W-2 resource. It can be a partnership. And even your competitors can be your partners. In the summer, like today, you would be sleeping on the roof or a fire escape because there was no air conditioning, and you're lucky if you had a fan. I believe that business has the primary responsibility to create a better world. Understand your higher purpose. Why are you doing what you're doing?
What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of the Tech Leaders Playbook. I am your host, hopefully you know, Avetis Antaplyan, and today I'm joined by Mark Monchek, founder and chief opportunity officer of Opportunity Lab. Mark is an author, speaker, and advisor who's helped leaders from some of the world's best organizations thrive in times of radical disruption, which is what we're in. His books, Culture of Opportunity, and forthcoming book, Opportunity Intelligence, explore how to build resilient businesses, unlock growth through collaboration, mindset shifts, and purpose. More importantly, Mark wants to make sure we know he is a proud father and grandfather of two. Mark, thank you so much for being here. I'm really excited, man. You and I are going to be at the same conference, what you're leading, the UnConference. So we'll get to that later. But in today's conversation, we're going to talk about how to lead through chaos and uncertainty, and why collaboration is more powerful than competition. Should we get started?
Let's go.
Let's go. So let's jump right in, man. Tell me a little bit about how you got into this world. Why did you even choose to tackle this crazy problem? I mean, a very large problem. And it's only going to get larger. Like, why did you decide to tackle this problem?
Well, I'm going to give you the origin story of me in a short version. So I was born at the intersection of business, art, and psychology. So, Avetis, everybody in my family worked in one of the two family businesses, mother's side, father's side, except my parents. My father was a psychiatrist, interested in how people think and why they do what they do. And my mother was an artist. So business, art, and psychology were always my passion. And growing up at the dinner table, my father's side of the family would talk about everything related to their business. They would they would scream, they would yell, they would fight. And I saw all the upsides and downsides of a family business. On my mother's side, my mother's father, my grandfather, and his two sons never talked about business, because they were Holocaust survivors and their business was taken away by the Nazis, and they reclaimed it in Bleecker City and Greenwich Village right after World War II. So they were very much traumatized by what they had been through. But my grandfather developed such a successful business, it was actually bought by Binney and Smith, the crayon makers, before he passed away. And they made fine artist brushes. My father's side of the business made toys. Wow. They made toys for kids, and they jumped into the baby boom explosion because they started to see there were kids all over the place and they needed something to play with. So toys and artist brushes.
Nothing better. Let's talk about radical disruptions and the need for quantum leaps. We can't take small iterative leaps anymore. We gotta make quantum leaps because the world is moving really, really fast. Like opportunity intelligence, and why businesses must prepare for quantum leaps. Like, tell me a little bit about that. Why did you decide to tackle this specific problem?
So going back to your first question in the origin story, my parents lived through the pandemic of 1918. 75 to 100 million people died in that, what they called the Spanish flu, which wasn't actually from Spain. They lived through the Great Depression, where 25% of Americans were unemployed. They lived through World War II, and the Holocaust, and the post-war, and the McCarthy period, and the civil rights movement, and everything that came after. So I had access in my direct parents' experience to most of the 20th century, where there was a tremendous amount of radical disruption at various points. Why is our disruption now even more radical and even more difficult to deal with? Is because we're having radical disruption at every segment of the world. It's not just business. It's the average person deciding, are they going to have a job next week? Are they going to have a place to live next week? So it's disruption happens everywhere. That's why I think it is more overwhelming than ever. There were other disruptions which were limited to business or consumers or people, but this is limited to nobody's. Everybody is affected by the technology, the social change, the political change, and all of those other disruptions that we're going to talk about during the show.
My son, just to prove your point, Mark, a year ago, I was teaching him about AI, my daughter and my son looks at me and says, Pops, then why are we even going to school? We're not going to have anything to do in 5-10 years. I'm like, wow, 11-year-old kid that's thinking about, like, I might not be needed. Like, I might not have a job. There might not be jobs. I was like, hey, take it easy. Take it easy. You're going to go to school. You're going to learn. You're going to have plenty of things to do. But it does make you think, like, wow, the world has changed. So let's talk about that. Let's talk about your story from Hurricane Helene to rebuilding Western North Carolina, because you and I talked about that offline.
So I thought what you were going to say with your son was that he was thinking, why should I go to school? Because I'm learning more from AI. I'm learning it faster, and I'm learning it more in context of me than I might be in school.
He was worried about having a job. He was worried about having a job. He's like, what's the point? If there's not going to be any jobs, computers are going to do our work. AI is going to replace us. I might as well chill at home and play basketball or something. I don't know what he was thinking.
So with a father who has a search firm, he wasn't too talking about you having a job. So you were talking about Hurricane Helene. So I'm going to fast forward to 2024, and my life partner lives in Asheville, North Carolina, which is where I live part-time. So she and I participated in this kind of radical UnConference. It was called actually the Crossroads Collaboratory, where we brought together climate scientists, Native American sustainability leaders, and organizational change makers and students to tackle the climate change situation and how do we make a city like Asheville, Western North Carolina, and all the business around it more climate resilient. 5 weeks later, Hurricane Helene hit, which was the most devastating hurricane ever to hit Western North Carolina. Wow. And it was on the level of Katrina. So it was the most radical disruption that I had ever seen. And the River Arts District, which is one of the largest arts districts in the United States. So there was one aspect of the River Arts District where there were 700 artists living and working in a very, very small space. That space was physically destroyed. So how are we going to rebuild? Well, we decided that we were going to kind of pick and choose and really focus on the River Arts District because other people were focusing on other parts of the rebuilding. And we started this program called Asheville Rising. And we focused on getting money to be able to take the artists to places where they could sell their art outside of Asheville while Asheville River Arts District was actually being rebuilt. So we took them to the Gem Show in Tucson, Arizona. We took them to the Gem Show in New Jersey, and we started getting them back to selling their art and getting the word out about their art being post-Helene. Because imagine you're an artist and 1,000 of your works over 20 years were destroyed, literally went down the river. So we wanted to bring back people to be able to have a way they could do their art and then sell their art and get their word out there. So that's really part of our focus. Now we're working with an organization called Blueprint for Impact. We're bringing together all of the companies that are involved in the outdoor industry in Western North Carolina. So Western North Carolina is unique, not just because of the arts district, but because it is the largest outdoor and recreation space in the Southeast. So a lot of companies that make hiking shoes, fishing equipment, boating equipment are located there. And many, many people go there because of the streams and the rivers and the hiking trails and the biking trails and all that. So what we try to do in our company, Opportunity Lab, Avetis, is to really help understand what is the points of leverage that you have. So in any disruption, things look bad, but there's always points of leverage that you can find out, okay, where is the opportunity in this disruption? So if you go back to the Great Depression all the way through the different economic challenges we've had in the United States, you find the most innovative companies start during the most radical disruption. So Hewlett-Packard started during the Depression. Public supermarkets started during the Depression. Procter and Gamble started at the worst recession in the 1800s.
Yeah.
So if you think about 2008, which was the worst recession since the Great Depression,
Yep.
think about all the companies that came out of that horrible situation that we thought was going to take us all down, right? So Facebook in 2008 was only 4 years old, right? Uber, Lyft, Airbnb, all these companies, which were never thought that you could even start them, started during radical disruption. So while it is problematic, you got to think every disruption creates opportunities that were not there before.
How about, I mean, look at what COVID. I mean, during COVID, we literally didn't know what was next, because unlike the 2008 recession, which, old wise people will tell you, oh no, we've been through this before. I was, the 2000 recession, 1990 whatever, 1983 whatever. People had histories of recessions, and they talked about how they got through it and how long it lasted. And so you had some leadership during COVID. Not one person could say, don't worry, I've been through this before. You've never been through COVID before. You've never been through a complete world shutdown before, unless you were around in 1918. So that also created a ton of opportunities. So I feel like we're in that type of world again, right? Mark, how can smaller mission-driven organizations prepare for radical disruptions that we're facing today? Like, how should they tackle this?
So if you think about how do you access the opportunity in any disruption, it brings me back to 10th grade geometry, which I barely passed, but I remembered one thing from 10th grade geometry. Archimedes, the Greek mathematician, said, give me a fulcrum and a lever and a place to stand, and I can lift the earth. Simple concept, but where is the place to stand? So when things are nerve-wracking, things are fearful, things are confusing, we typically don't give ourselves a place to stand. We want to do. Well, the worst thing you can do in a hurricane is to run into the hurricane. The only place you could stand in a hurricane is in the eye of the hurricane, where actually it's quiet and peaceful. So you have to find that place to stand. That could be being in nature, it could be meditation, it could be exercise, it could be swimming, it could be some form of quieting the mind and seeing where is that inner wisdom that will tell you where to put your lever in a fulcrum to be able to move forward, because there's an opportunity there. So that place to stand for the individual entrepreneur, but also for your team together, right? You have to stop, take a time out, and really reflect, not from panic, but from opportunity, which is not an easy thing to do, but you can do it if you're disciplined.
Mark, it's funny you said that. Literally, I did that during the COVID shutdown. I don't remember exactly when it was. I think it was 2020. I didn't know what the hell was going on, but I had to bring my team together and say, hey guys, we haven't been through this before, but we've been through several recessions. We know what we're doing. You're in good hands. No one here will be panicking. I can't guarantee anything, but I'll tell you right now, we're not behind the scenes talking about laying you guys off and shutting down. Get that out of your head. You just saw everybody just breathe a little bit, and you could actually see the room relax and breathe a little bit just by saying, hey, we're not panicking. We're not making any promises except the fact that we're not going to panic. So that's a really good point. Mark, do you have any examples of exactly what you just described, but in practice, where, hey, this is what we did with a company, here's what they've done with it? Do you have any examples that we can all kind of draw from?
Sure. Got quite a few. I'm going to give you the one that pops into my head right away. So back in 2011, I was asked to help a nonprofit, the Literacy Assistance Center, take a new program and get funding and get brand awareness behind it. So 15% of American adults are functionally illiterate. 15% of Americans cannot read effectively, cannot do math effectively, cannot understand their prescription. So Literacy Assistance Center's mission was to eradicate adult illiteracy. And one of the ways they do that is by educating teachers of adults and certifying them. If you're a teacher of children in the United States, you have a certification, you have a license from the state. But if you teach adults, back then, there was no certification, there was no license. So there was no quality control. So they wanted to really heighten the awareness of this issue of adult illiteracy, but also of their brand, that they had expertise in teaching, training, and certifying adult educators, but they didn't know how to do it. So they wanted to bring together educators and researchers and funders and media people from around the United States around this issue, but around their brand, and raising some awareness so they could raise the capital and the brand awareness to get their program off the ground. They didn't know how to do it. So what do? We built the first resource map that we created back in 2011. And we said, let's use a digital mind map to map the people, the organizations, the markets, the sources of capital, of knowledge, and the communication, and see, what does your network look like? So the first map had 26 people, really good strategic people, 17 organizations. They had 5 markets they were in. They had lots of knowledge and lots of communication, but only 3 sources of capital. So we said, all right, let's build out the map, and let's have every staff member and every board member fill in the map under this burning platform question. If you had to raise $3 million in 3 months, or you're out of business, how would you do it? Avetis, suddenly 17 new sources of capital come on the map.
Wow.
3 of them with the last name of Soros. George Soros and his 2 kids all had foundations. The room was dead quiet. You could not hear a pin drop. Somebody screams out, "Who knows George Soros, and how come you never said anything?" In the back of the room, the woman who's director of education sheepishly said, "I do." "Why didn't you say anything?" "Avetis, nobody ever asked me." So she sat 10 feet from the director of development, but there was no methodology to share resources, and there was a scarcity mindset that believed that this organization didn't have enough resources, because most of the organizations like them didn't have enough resources. What do? We actually we hosted the summit. We had leaders from the CDC. So adult illiteracy is actually considered a disease in the CDC, language. We had researchers from Harvard. We had journalists. We had funders, and we were able to raise capital, raise awareness, get this program off the ground. So that was the aha moment that I realized that even a small, under-resourced, quote-unquote, under-resourced organization has the resources if they can access the network and understand that network wants to give you something if you have something valuable to offer it. Unlock your network is one of the core elements of opportunity intelligence. So we are going around the country helping communities, businesses, nonprofits unlock their networks. Because there are a vast amount of resources in your networks if you understand how to access them properly.
Wow. So that's what the original UnConference was about, right? It was creating, kind of unlocking your network, creating collaborative ecosystems. Yeah? Or is this going to be covered in New York at the UnConference?
So we are using the unlock your network concepts.
Great.
Right, of shifting from I to we, shifting from scarcity to abundance, shifting from conscious collaboration. So you and all of the what we're calling reimagined guides, who are also called speakers, were invited through our mutual networks. We're inviting the 75 CEOs and C-suite leaders. We're calling them disruptors. You might call them participants, through our Unlock Your Network methodology of we want personal relationships. So there's a massive community of mid-market CEOs and leaders that don't necessarily know each other, but they are connected by relationships.
You want to get to a point where 1 + 1 = 11, not 2. That's kind of what you're doing here.
Yeah, the multiplier, the network effect. Yes.
Yeah, Mark. One of my favorite things now is I'm part of several think tanks, and you'd be shocked in what you can learn and the connection you can unlock being next to a guy that's in a business that's not even relevant to yours. I mean, we're talking in my peer group, I might have a $100 million plumbing company. I might have a tech company, an attorney, a guy that owns a bunch of dentals, and it's still, you learn so much from each other and you collaborate and you help each other. So that's huge. What surprised you the most about the power of, I guess, shared vision and collaboration, Mark?
There's a belief that people are in competition with one another, and that people are reluctant to share, and hence people are reluctant to ask. But what I have found throughout my entire life is that when there is a crisis, or when there's a situation which truly has someone or an organization in need, people are very generous if you are authentic, if you are caring and honest in what you do. So going way back, when the idea of the resource ecosystem first germinated in my mind, was when my wife and I bought our first home way back in New York in 1981. 6 days after we moved in, we had a disastrous fire, almost destroyed the house. We had 3 break-ins. They stole 4 hand-carved fireplace mantles, 6 stained glass windows, TV, bicycle. We moved in back to this house with no heat, no hot water, no kitchen, no electricity, no plumbing, and no money. Suddenly, people obviously saw this house almost burned to the ground. They showed up. People I didn't even know, with food, with clothing, with suggestions for plumbers. Really? Some of my friends even moved into the house to live with us, and while we were rebuilding the house. So I started to see generosity is infectious. So we would then throw barbecues for these people. We would give them anything that we had, and even if we had nothing, it was a thank you, it was a hug, it was just an honest, I can't believe you're doing this. Generosity is infectious because people actually love to be generous, and when you're generous, people return it, and it's a virtuous circle of generosity. So Bruce Springsteen, who is an idol of mine, one of his famous quotes, which I love, is nobody wins until everybody wins. So when you have that concept of the greater good, people really rise up to the occasion because they want to be part of something bigger than themselves.
That's huge. That's huge. And they want to do something. They want to accomplish something in their lives. They want to feel like they're good people, so that any opportunity to come in and help others makes them feel good. It's a gift. Giving should not be for you. I hear that a lot. People say, why did you do that? What's in it for you? I'm like, what about giving to the community is for me? Nothing is in it for me. I'm giving back to the community, and I enjoy it, and I learn, and I meet great people. You get energized. That's what's in it for me, and people sometimes are like, yeah, but how are you going to win from this? I'm like, I just told you. So it's really interesting. Well, Mark, what outcomes have you seen from these kind of unconference style gatherings of leaders?
Well, I'm going to start by answering what lack of outcomes, what you came in for are in typical conferences. So typical conferences, people are brought together to hear from people who supposedly know more than them. So I'm going to go to a conference about technology, and I'm going to learn about stuff that I don't know because somebody in there smarter than me knows more than me. Well, that's a limited amount of knowledge. I actually want to learn something while I'm teaching something, and learn something together with other people that will give me the ability to learn more and better after I leave.
Yep.
So we developed this UnConference, which is Disrupted Work Reimagined UnConference in New York, October 16th of this year, because we wanted to do something where the 75 CEOs and C-suite leaders of mid-market companies could, number one, come together with their peers and understand how much they had in common and learn from each other.
Yes.
Where the guides, you being one of them, were creating the experience, creating the atmosphere, creating some knowledge and insight that allowed us to learn together.
Yep.
Right? Not to sit there and passively receive something. So what you were telling me earlier today was that you only signed up to be a guide because you actually wanted to be there through the whole event. Absolutely. And learn from all the other people, which is what you're going to do. And you're Absolutely. Going to teach and learn together. So we're social creatures, and we were meant to do things together. And if you go back to why did Homo sapiens become the species that won out over Homo erectus or Neanderthal, is because we were able to do one thing better and differently than anybody else and any animals, which is tell a story and cooperate on the basis of that story. What stories are we talking about? Well, the biggest story that one of the biggest is money, right? Money is a story. right? You and I both agree that a dollar bill or a $10 bill or $20 bill has value based on what somebody else is willing to sell for that value. So money was a story that was created that we had to have a common story in order to actually have money be a transaction instead of bartering, the pelts of a beaver for an oar for a canoe.
Sure.
Right? Religion is a story that we all believe in a shared set of beliefs and values and philosophies and so forth. Right? So we're humans because we actually can cooperate and collaborate in ways that other species before us and other animal species cannot. So that's why the UnConference is going to be a collaboration between the disruptors, aka participants, the guides, and all the other people who are going to be there. So we want the people to leave, you included, on that end of that day, number one, having a whole set of relationships that you never had before. But I'm talking about personal relationships where you got to know somebody in a curated, personal way during the times that we set aside for that.
Amazing.
People go to most conferences and they leave saying, the conference was a dud, but I met 3 amazing people, and I wish I had more time with those people, right? So we're going to create a lot of time to actually connect with people on that personal level. So when you leave, you might have 3, 4, 5, maybe you have 10 relationships that you will gain from going forward.
Mark, when I went to the Google conference in Las Vegas like last year or something, everybody told me they're like all the tech leaders. They're like, we actually don't come here to learn anything. We're really here to meet up with people that we want to meet up with, right? These are opportunities that we're all in that room or all at that conference. We're all in that city. Just a great opportunity to connect with them, which is what you just described. The five people they met outside of the conference were really the reason it was great or not great, so that's huge. Mark, what would you say when you talk about unlocking your network? What do you say to people that think like kind of scarcity mindset is, well, Mark, I can't connect you with my contact about something you need because what if I need that, right? Because again, I only have a few bullets to use, and if I use it on you, then I can't use it on me. So sometimes I end up not using a bullet ever. In fact, most of the time we don't use any bullets with our network. What do you say to that?
I would say, are you willing, you person ABC, to put aside your belief for 5 minutes just to test something with me? And they usually say yes. So I will then take them into a guided meditation, and I will take them through the best experiences they've had in their life, in their career and business, and what they've gained from those experiences. And when they do that, they find out that the most impactful experiences, both emotionally, but also from a business result standpoint, came from some act of generosity, some act of giving and receiving. So when I unpack what we call their success DNA, I'll show them that the scarcity mindset, I wouldn't call it that, I don't want to criticize them, but the idea that don't give away something because you don't have enough of it actually is not what made them successful when they were successful.
Of course not.
And then I show them the idea that you're actually not giving anything away. You're offering something that would then give the person an opportunity to offer something back to you.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. That's huge. Let's talk about shifting your mindset from I versus I to we, competition to collaboration, which you mentioned, scarcity to abundance. Let's talk about the benefits of switching the mindset.
So I'll ask somebody, tell me one thing that you did in the last 24 hours that you did entirely by yourself, where you have to rely on nothing but yourself. And they would say, oh, I went for a walk by myself. Okay, what did you walk on? Well, I walked on the street. So you made that street? No. I said, well, didn't the government have to pave that street and make it so you could walk on it? Yeah, they did. Okay, so you actually were dependent on tax dollars and government to make that street for you. Oh yeah. Um, oh, I went to the bathroom by myself. Well, what did you do after you went to the bathroom? Well, I flushed the toilet. So you built the plumbing system? You actually made the toilet? You brought the water in there? No. So I actually start to to break down every single activity that they have, and they start to see that there is this hidden network of resources that we take for granted every single day, right? And then I'll do something similar to what I said. I'll ask them to go back to see the most important successes that they had, and what were the conditions that existed inside of themselves and outside of themselves when they're successful. And it's usually there's actually a generosity mindset, a we mindset, an abundance mindset when they're successful. And once they unpack that, they start to see the scarcity mindset just comes up when they're afraid that the situation they're in now is different from any other situation that they had before, and what worked then won't work now. And I show them it might be different, but it's not inherently different. It may be superficially different.
Got it. I like it. How can leaders in fast-paced industries, like specifically like tech or anywhere, cultivate a culture of collaboration, abundance mindset, and shared goals? That's a little tougher, right? People are willing to give credit. The we is a little bit easier than it is to create a culture of collaboration, abundance, and shared goals, because I want to train this newbie, but what if they're better than me and they end up taking my job, right? I want to give you information, but then, God, you're going to be as good as me, and that's my only advantage as a senior person. I want to collaborate, but, I rather just kind of work on my own thing so I can get my goals accomplished. Like, tell me a little bit about that. And how can we get people to think what is beyond themselves and think, what's the team's goals? What's the company's goals? We forget about that too, right? If the company wins, your team wins, you win usually,
Well, I would typically ask them, so who are the most successful people that you know and admire? Give me 3. And then I would say, well, tell me, what are the values of those 3 people? Have those people been generous to you? Have those people been, did they kind of keep to themselves? Are they very closed vest? And I'll typically say, yeah, the most successful people that I know are generous. They're collaborative. They actually don't think about what they're giving away. They just think about the fact that they enjoy giving. And those people get people flocking to them because generosity, like I said, is infectious and breeds more generosity.
That's huge. And also you can use this with partnerships outside of your company. Let's talk a little bit about that. That's an entire untapped situation where companies could partner with other companies and collaborate. And do you have any examples how partnerships can drive revenue, innovation, and resilience?
Yes. So in the old mindset of my company, I control the things in my company. I control when people come in my building, when they work, what they work on, how much they're paid, and all of that. Well, COVID kind of destroyed a lot of that concept, right? So you do not own your people nor their time. Companies that are successful today, they need to be resilient, they need to be adaptable, and they need to have people who actually want to work with them and want to work with them productively and share their innovation, their relationships, and all of that, right? So in terms of these most successful companies today, they do not look for spending more money that they have to spend every year, or being in a building that they cannot sell right away. They're looking to be flexible and resilient. So instead of thinking, well, I need a resource, so I need to hire it. I need a resource and I need to find it in my ecosystem, and I need to partner with it. So we at Opportunity Lab have partnered with Career Winner Circle, Tammy Alvarez, my partner in this UnConference. Together, our 2 small teams have been massively impactful because we complement each other and we have relationships that complement each other, right? So we at Opportunity Lab have partnerships with about 4 companies. We have Do Good Design. You met John Natoli. So they do our branding, they do our design, they do our digital marketing. Career Winner Circle partners on this UnConference. They have a whole set of coaches that we don't have that we can refer to them. And then Continuum is a company that my life partner runs, and they have a whole set of relationships and clients that we do not have, and we can do and help each other. So if you understand everything that you need does not have to be in your building, it does not have to be a W-2 resource, it can be a partnership. And even your competitors can be your partners, because very few companies compete 100% overlap with one another.
You're right. You're right. No, that's huge. Now, how do you balance those meaningful partnerships while maintaining focus on your core priorities? Because, there are times where you can spend too much time, networking and creating friendships and these and things, and you can't focus on core focus, things, your actual business that you have full control of. How do you balance those two things out?
That's a great question. I would go back to that points of leverage where I said you have a fulcrum, a lever, and a place to stand. It's that place to stand, which literally for me, Avetis, is an everyday practice. So I meditate in the morning, I meditate in the evening, I go swimming probably once a day.
Wow.
And when I'm in those states, I am blocking out all external stimulation. No screens, no music, no nothing. It's just quiet in my mind. And when I quiet the mind, my internal wisdom gives me the insight to say, I need to spend more time with Avetis. I need to spend more time with my team. So, we have a annual plan, but that plan changes pretty consistently because things change. We have a monthly plan, and I have a daily plan, and that daily plan might change during the day because an emergency might come up. But to keep presence, it's really important to have that place to stand and be disciplined and not be addicted to the lure of a screen. That is one of the biggest challenges. We're addicted to our screens. And if we can be addicted to the quietness of our beautiful minds, that is a better way to make sure we're staying on path.
How do you know our minds are beautiful? What if our minds are messed up?
I think if you have the discipline to quiet your mind long enough. So our minds are certainly messed up at various times, sometimes a lot, right? But this is what happens when people start to meditate. It's so painful because they can't stop thinking. They'll say, I meditate for 20 minutes, I never stop thinking. Well, there is 50 or 60 years of research, tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of people with brain activity being monitored, that if you meditate twice a day for 20 minutes and you do it consistently over the course of a couple of weeks, your brain is going to quiet down even if you think you're thinking. So it's a matter of basically having a battle with your mind. If your mind realizes you are not going to get up from that meditative state for 20 minutes, eventually it gives up and said, all right, I give up. I'm gonna quiet down.
Nice.
It's like a child. When my daughter was a year and a half, she decided, for reasons we'll never know, that she was going to sleep in our bed and she was not going to sleep until she could sleep in our bed. And we said, we're not going to do that. You did that when you were younger. So I had to basically wage a battle with my daughter to show her that she's not sleeping in our bed, and I'm going to be with her and I'll sleep in her room until she was able to learn how to go to sleep peacefully. That's kind of like what happens with the overactive mind. You have to let it know, I'm going to meditate even if I think I'm thinking, and eventually the mind quiets down. The mind has a natural quietness to it. It's not naturally busy, because if it were, it wouldn't have survived. We wouldn't have survived, all these centuries. Because if you're hunting, so back in the days that we were hunter-gatherers, you cannot have an overly active mind when you're waiting to see when a coyote is going to strike, when you're going to attack a lion, right? Or when you prevent a bear from attacking you. You can't have an overly stimulated mind. You actually have to be very quiet and observe everything in front of you. So our minds are naturally quiet if we have the discipline to block out the external stimulation.
If we allow it, right?
If we allow it to be, exactly.
Mark, let's go back a little bit, because you talked about, your parents and your grandparents and all the stuff that they survived, right? What is that? How does that shape your views on community and leadership and resilience? Because I'm sure you've heard some insane stories, right? And these people survived, you know?
Yeah. So my father was born in Brownsville, Brooklyn, very, very low income area in 1909, the beginning of the 20th century. He had 6 brothers and 1 sister, 7 children, 2 parents, lived in a 650 square foot apartment with 1 sink and 1 toilet.
Wow.
No bathtub, no shower. In the summer, like today, you would be sleeping on the roof or a fire escape because there was no air conditioning, and if you're lucky if you had a fan. So how do 9 people bathe in a sink every day, and twice a week they go to the public baths? Because that was the expectation.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't know any better. But they did feel like there was something better out there because they would hear about it. And eventually, my father decided he wanted to become a doctor. And back then, there was a quota. Only 3% of doctors could be Jewish. So my father was very, very upset about that. But he said, you know what? I'm going to be a doctor no matter what. So he went to Vienna, Austria on a boat 1 week to get there. And he studied in German for 3 years. And then in 1938, Hitler invaded Austria. And the State Department said, all Americans must go home immediately. My father said, I didn't study for 3 years to give up being a doctor. He escapes on a train to Basel, Switzerland, and gets his degree in 1939 and comes back to the United States and works riding on ambulances. So I grew up with this idea that there is nothing but opportunity if you accept the circumstances in the moment and realize it can be better, but not to fight these circumstances. I never heard my father or my uncles complain about the situation, but they said, you know what, I don't love living, I'm not living like this, my kids are not living, but I'm going to accept this the way it is now, but what can I do to change it? So that's the opportunity mindset we're talking about, going back to, you know, my next book coming out. The first opportunity mindset is accept what is.
Yep.
Don't judge it. Don't fight against it. And then say, okay, this is what is. What do I do about it? What is
very
the
stoic, Mark? That's very stoic.
Yeah.
Right? It's a very stoic concept. It is
Yeah.
what it is. It is. And so, okay, now it's, so what, now what, right? What can we do about it?
Yeah.
So go on.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, yeah. I mean, if you want to talk about Stoic concept, the obstacle is the way, right? That's one of the other Stoic concepts, is if you look at an obstacle and you say, oh, why did that happen? How did that happen? And the Stoic would say, well, why did it happen to me? Stoic would say, well, why wouldn't it happen to you? Why shouldn't it happen to you? Like it's just like not judging it and realize, okay, if I can move through the obstacle without fighting it, but actually understanding it and moving through it, well, now I've gained something. So the idea of resilience is like if you have a plastic cup and you crush it and it's disformed, you can bring it back to more or less what it looked like. That's resilience. Anti-fragile is actually being stronger as a result of a crisis or an adversity. So when my wife and I got through 6 years of rebuilding our home, we were anti-fragile because we had learned so many things about how to prevent fire, how to build a relationship that was stronger between us because we survived and we thrived through some of that adversity, how the friendships we built were lifelong friendships and the gratitude we have for those friendships. So resilient is good, like go back to the situation, but anti-fragile, or some people call it post-traumatic growth, instead of post-traumatic stress disorder, that's the Nietzsche concept. What doesn't kill you makes you stronger.
Yes.
I mean, I don't think it has to get to the point where it almost kills you, but I think
we get the point.
But if Avetis, if you ask 10 people, what were the most important aspects in your life, the aspects of your life that changed your life the most, that made you who you are? 9 out of 10 people are going to tell you something that happened to them
Yes.
rather than something that they chose.
Of course.
And why is that? Because we are very much creatures of comfort and of habit,
Mm-hmm.
and it's very difficult for us to change a habit. We have to have a lot of motivation when our habits are good, like our habits are comfortable.
Yeah, no, that's huge. Mark, one of the things that we used to tell our team, especially during recessions, is don't think, why is this happening to you? Think, why is this is happening for you? And of course, some people didn't understand it, and they were just like, come on, are you serious right now? It's like, yeah. Look, you got away with being solid, decent, okay, and you looked great at the time. Now you're in a recession. You're in a really tough situation. You will have to get better just to survive. Just to survive, you have to be better and stronger and all that. But it's happening for you, because when things turn around, you're going to look back and go, oh my God, I was swimming with weights on and shoes on. Now I can run 100 miles faster. And so those that understood it a year, 2, 3 years later, they would look at us and go like, how did you know? Well, because we've been through it. And that's a mindset we have, and we've, worked with it. Mark, let's switch categories. Let's actually talk about this awesome disrupted work reimagined summit we just met about a while ago. Tell me what why are we putting this together, and how does this reflect the philosophy on leadership, disruption, and collaboration?
I'm going to go back to last summer. I took a vacation to Jamestown, Virginia. I was a history major, a history enthusiast my whole life, and I thought I knew how this country started. So you ask 10 people where this country started, they'll say in Plymouth Rock, the Pilgrims came to Massachusetts. That was in 1620. Mm-hmm. In 1607, 104 British settlers, men and boys, came to Jamestown, Virginia. In a year and a half later, only 34 survived. And they didn't come for religious freedom. They came for the first British corporation, which was the Virginia Company, which invested money to come back to send these people to bring gold and silver and spices and exit their investment in 3 years. Well, what actually happened was these 34 people almost didn't survive, and they finally did. But the reason I'm telling you this is when I was going through the Jamestown site, looking at where we actually came, the first Americans who settled here successfully, the archaeologist said to me, 50 years from now, there will be no Jamestown. I said, what do you mean? I said, Jamestown will be wiped away because the floods will have wiped it away because it's in the lowlands. And right now, there's no government plan to raise it up or to somehow mitigate these floods that will be happening. And I got to tell you, Avetis, I was stunned. My heart was broken. I told you I have 2 grandchildren, one who's almost 3, one who's 5. To think that they will not be able to go to the place where our country started was heartbreaking to me. So the reason why am I answering the question that way about the UnConference is that I believe that business has the primary responsibility to create a better world and to be able to leave the world in a better place for our children and grandchildren. And right now, we're not on a path to do that. So we want to bring together 75 CEOs and C-suite leaders of mid-market companies who typically are not publicly traded. They don't have 1,000 shareholders. They're privately owned. They can have more control of their destiny. Yeah. And we want them to learn, how do we actually make better leaders, to make better companies, to make a better world, be better to our customers, our communities, and our employees, and how do we share our knowledge and information and what you, as one of the guides, will bring to be able to actually make a better contribution to the world than we've made now. That's one of the main reasons why we're doing this. And we think, small companies are sexy, and startups and all that. Big companies they're in the news because these mid-market companies, which make up a huge swath of American business, don't get a lot of publicity, and they don't necessarily have the resources that the startups have with venture capital. or the publicly traded companies have because they have access to, the stock price and all of that.
We know what kind of leaders you are hoping to attract, at least from a position and size of company. What message do you hope to deliver, for us to deliver to these leaders attending?
Number one, you're going to have more fun than you ever had at any summit or conference you've been to before.
It's good
because
news.
we are going to have things that you had never experienced at a conference before. We're going to have Gary Malkin, who is a multiple Emmy Award winning composer.
Yes.
He has written the scores to many television shows, many movies, many plays. He is going to actually use music throughout the day to help you create the mood, change the mood you're in. Take your frazzled mind and quiet it down. Take your scattered mind and focus it. We're going to have drunk yoga without the drinking. We're going to have Eli Walker, who's going to be doing some movement throughout the day. We're using the body, using the movement to be able to actually open up some energy. We're actually going to have a band called the Bone Tones, which is a CEO-led band. One of our Disruptive Guide speakers, Joe Giaccarino, actually moonlights running a rock and an R&B band who's going to play during the happy hour. So you're going to have experiences that you never had before. You're going to be at Luminary, which is a phenomenally bespoke and cool co-working space and community run by women and owned by women that has a feminine empowerment vibe that you've never seen before.
Amazing. What, I guess if you could ensure one specific outcome from this summit, besides a lot of fun, what would it be?
Well, I'm going to give you three. One is relationships. You're going to come away with the relationships you didn't know existed. Number two is you're going to have a framework to tackle one of the three pillars. Pillar one is hacking the pace of change with AI. Pillar two is the leadership reset. Pillar three is thriving cultures through empowering talent. So you're going to have a framework to bring back to your leadership team on how to solve those challenges. You won't have a total solution because not in one day that's simplistic, but you're going to have some information, some guidance, and a focus. And number three, you're going to have resources that will continue after the UnConference is over.
Amazing. Where do people sign up? Is there already links? Is it out?
You can go to unconferencenyc.com. Very simple, unconferencenyc.com. You'll see everything about the conference. If you want to apply, you can apply there. If you want to set up a concierge call to learn more about it, you can learn there. That is the quickest way to learn about this UnConference.
Amazing. Mark, give us one piece of advice for leaders navigating disruption and transformation, besides attending this awesome conference.
Understand your higher purpose. Why are you doing what you're doing? What were you brought here to do as a human being? I believe everybody has a life purpose and a business purpose. And I think sometimes when things get chaotic and frightening, we get taken away from that purpose. So I know for myself, the purpose of my business is to empower conscious leaders to build great companies and make a difference in the world. And I try to really understand and deepen that purpose. And so understand that there's a higher purpose and that there's an important role to fulfill and that you're not alone, that there's going to be somebody or buddies that can help you. I think one of the tragedies of leaders is they somehow think that they've got to do it by themselves. And one of the major themes of this conference is you're not in this alone. We've got many different kinds of people to help you, giving you help that you didn't even know existed before.
I love it. Mark, what's your favorite book?
God, I've got so many. I would say the Tao Te Ching, which is the Book of the Way, which is the book that Taoism is based on. Mm-hmm. It is I guess you could call it is 82 small poems written by Lao Tzu, who was a Chinese philosopher. And the reason I mention it, it really grounds me back into nature. It grounds me back into the simplicity of life, the importance of, valuing life as sacred.
I love it, man. I love it. Mark, thanks for your time and insights, man. Listeners, don't forget, you can connect with Mark on LinkedIn. You can learn more about his books, the Opportunity Lab. You can learn more about the UnConference that we'll be in together. And Mark, you've added so much value and can't wait to see you in October. I'm sure I'll see you before then, but keep doing what you do, man. It's a lot of fun, and I learned a ton, and hopefully the listeners did as well.
I so appreciate you, Avetis, and really thank you for allowing me to be on your show.
Appreciate you, brother. Thanks a lot, Mark. And that brings us to the end of another great episode of the Tech Leaders Playbook. I want to thank you for joining us and hope you took away some valuable insights to apply in your professional journey. Don't forget to subscribe on your preferred podcast platform so you don't miss out on the next great conversation. I promise it'll be good. If you enjoyed today's episode, we'd appreciate if you could leave us a review. Your feedback not only helps us improve, but it also helps others discover the podcast. Better leaders mean better working environments. Better working environments leads to happier people. Remember, a rising tide lifts all boats. I'm Avetis Antaplyan, and this has been the Tech Leaders Playbook. Keep leading, keep learning, keep giving, and I'll see you on the next one. Until then, stay inspired, my friends.